Mark Osborne, and I'm the director of The Little Prince. When I was first asked if I wanted to make a movie out of the book, the question came as, there's two producers, they have the rights to turn this book into a movie, and they want to make a big animated movie. Are you interested? And that question specifically, I said no. I said no, that's impossible. You cannot make a big movie. It's such a delicate little story, and my memory of it was very strong because of how the book came into my life and what the book meant to me, and and I know how much it means to so many people. So I just said, it's crazy. You can't do it. You can't do it. And then the more I thought about it, and like the book resonated with me, and like things from the book started welling up, and I was really remembering what a hard time on Kung Fu Panda we had, because we were building something from nothing. You know, we were working from nothing, and you're trying to create something huge out of thin air, and then I started to realize, wow, what an amazing opportunity to build from this incredible, significant work. And so I started to think that maybe instead of my first reaction, which is like to take the book and stretch it out and to make it big, I thought, maybe it's not that. You know, maybe there's a way to protect the book. Maybe there's a way to approach this as an assignment to bring the book and create a cinematic experience that's not just the story of the book, but it's more about how the book makes you feel, how the book affects you, how you share the book with people, people share the book with you, like just all the things that the book has done or become in our world over the 70 years that it's existed. You know, that sort of then became the opportunity. We could make a movie that pays tribute to this experience that someone can have with this book and how the book can change their life. And for me in particular, I had evidence in my own life because I was given the book more than 25 years ago when my wife and I were just dating in college, and I had to leave New York where we met and go to California to study animation. I was very nervous about it, and I didn't want to leave her, and I didn't want to be apart, and she was, you know, wanted me to pursue my dream, and she wanted me to pursue this animation as you know, she knew it was important to me, and she gave me her copy of the book to try to keep us connected. And she, you know, it was significant to her, and then the book really became significant to me and to us, and it became a very strong bond between us. And so now we're married, we have 2 kids, and you know, it's just this bizarre, amazing thing to then be given this chance to make this movie. But the reason the book was so special, you know, the book being so special to me was the main reason why I said no, but then it actually became the reason why I said yes. And that was kind of the thing that I was like, wow, I could take my experience with the book and kind of use that as fuel for this. And that was kind of the big turnaround to then all of a sudden embrace it. Although I did spend about 9 months of like trying to figure out what the path was going to be, what the way I was going to protect the book, the larger story that I was going to tell to try to protect the book. Like, it took a long time for me to build up to the point where I could go back to the producers and say, I think I have a way, and I want to see if you guys respond to it, and I want to see if the estate will get behind it. And that took a long time because I didn't want to rush into it, and I didn't want to take it lightly. I wanted to be very careful. It took a while because you know, like I said, I wasn't rushing into it, and also I wasn't sure if it was real. You know, if these producers really had these rights, and you know, so I was also very cautious. But when I started thinking about it, I said I wanted to tell a larger story around the book so that I could keep the book safe. I wanted the book to be the heart of the movie, and I wanted it to inspire the rest of the movie. But I really felt like there was a larger story that needed to be told, and not just bookends, not just, you know, an old man sitting down in a bed and saying, here, let me tell you this story, and then, you know, and then we have the story, and then we have the ending. I really wanted to create a story that was a celebration of the themes of the book. I wanted to find a way to, in a way, mirror or retell the story in a unique way around the actual story itself. And so adaptation by Charlie Kaufman and Spike Jonze that was the thing I just kept thinking of, because it was such a unique movie that is a standalone movie. It's an adaptation of The Orchid Thief. It contains The Orchid Thief. It has the spirit and the soul of The Orchid Thief, but it also has this other story. And to me, that was a magic, solution for the trouble that Charlie Kaufman had trying to figure out how to adapt the book. So I said, maybe I can think along those terms. It's like outside the box thinking. So I was constantly trying to brainstorm and think outside the box, but I was always looking at the book. I was always going back to the book and trying to find inspiration in the pages of the book, in the bits and pieces, and I would read the beginning and the ending in particular. Influenced me greatly, because I was analyzing it and looking at all the different interpretations. There's a lot of ambiguity, there's a lot of suggestion, and I was really trying to look at all different angles of the book. And one of the things that happened that, when I was particularly sort of at a point where I just didn't feel like I could go forward, I discovered that Orson Welles had actually owned the rights to The Little Prince back in 1943, and he wanted to make it his follow-up to Citizen Kane, which got me very excited. I was like, well, if Orson Welles wanted to do this, maybe it's not so crazy to do this. Like, maybe I can figure this out. And he had written 4 drafts of a screenplay for the movie he wanted to make. And I thought I could get those, and maybe I could just use those scripts. And while it was very difficult to find them, and while those scripts were coming, I was fantasizing about what maybe he had done. And I'm a huge fan of his work, and I was like just dreaming about all the things that he maybe came up with, different framing devices, larger stories, and it was weird. It was like inspirational, but when the scripts came, they were just the book. There was nothing outside of the pages of the book, and I was like crushed, right? And I was just like, there was nothing I could use really. And but then I realized I had all these fantasies, and I had all these, Orson Welles probably came up with cool stuff like this and that, and I started to sort of stitch together a lot of those ideas, and it ended up being this brainstorming. Like, I accidentally brainstormed all this stuff that I then started drawing upon, and really I just kept working it and thinking about it and working it, and I just sort of ruminated on it until eventually I started to put all the pieces together. And I pitched it back to Dimitri, one of the producers, Dimitri Rassam, and mainly just to see, is he going to go for it? Is this too much? Is this too big? And I wanted to also see if the estate was going to allow what I was trying to do, and or what I thought would be the right thing. And he loved it, and he took it back to the estate, the idea of it, and they blessed it, and we got to move forward. So it was sort of, and I was like trying to figure out where the boundaries were. And so one of the ideas that I pitched also was to use CG animation for reality and use stop motion animation to represent the world of The Little Prince and the story inside the little girl, the main character's imagination. And that big idea, I thought, was going to be the first thing to go. And they loved it. It was one of the exciting ideas that to them made it cinematic and made it a film and made it the big idea they'd been searching for. They'd been looking for years to figure out how to do this. And I was the first one to come up with anything that was outside the boundaries of the book, but that was truthful and stuck to the spirit of the book. It's 2 different productions, it's 2 different teams. To do 2 different techniques is kind of crazy. And the question I got asked most often is like, how is this going to work? How are we going to put these 2 things together? And I would say, I don't know, but I believe that we'll find the right way to do it. But I really believed in it. And everybody who heard it would get excited at the idea, but then they would go, but how? And I would say, look, we'll get there. We'll figure it out. I just knew for me that it was a really important way to protect the book. You know, my mission with making this was I wanted to make a film that worked whether you know the book or not, but I also absolutely had to make the film so true to the book and such a celebration of the book that if you love the book, you would love the film. And that was the really important part of the mission. So to me, stop motion was a way to further protect, and I just didn't think that CG could capture the poetry and the soul of the book. I really wanted to use stop motion as a way to transport us all into our imaginations and back to our childhoods, and the idea of using paper and creating everything in the stop motion out of paper just took it one step further, closer to the book. And I really felt like, you know, we all, when we read the book, we're turning pages, we're feeling paper. And so for the little girl to imagine the story and build it in her mind out of paper, it just seemed like the perfect way to create a middle ground, a middle universe between those illustrations and reality. And so that was the main impulse. But it took a long time, and I really credit Jamie Colleary, who was the creative director of the stop motion sequences. And I brought him in, and I've always been a fan of his work, and I've always been, I mean, he's like a hero of mine. And you know, I said, hey, could you help me figure this out? And he had just done the Shins video with Alex Uhas, his designer. They had just done this. They had just done the Shins music video, which was the first time he had worked with puppets. So I was like, oh, this could be perfect. And it was Jamie who came in and really said, you know, he wanted to find a way to use paper for everything, and he really wanted to capture the ethereal, poetic nature of the story, and did an incredible job, I think, of helping me do that. The challenges of producing it and the challenges of distributing it are sort of tied together. All the financing for the project came from all the different territories where the movie was pre-sold. My producers actually that was sort of their expertise, and that's how they've financed their other projects. And because of the popularity of the book, that was sort of the goal, was to go out and go to those territories where the book is really popular and actually pre-sell the film. So that was, and it's quite an ingenious way that they were able to do this and raise quite a budget for us to be able to do this properly. But it also created a lot of complication for us because we don't just have one distributor that's controlling worldwide distribution. So every single territory has their own distribution date. They have their own marketing plan. It's sort of, it's a little bit strange. On a smaller indie film, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but on something that's this big, you know, it can create some complications. So our rollout is going to be more than 6 months because some territories were in July of 2015 and some might be as late as March or April of 2016. And so I just want everybody to see the film, and I want to be able to like have it out there, but that's sort of one of the things. We have this elongated period of rollout, and so on the one side that's a complication, but that also, that international financing that we did in all those different areas, it created a positive thing for us, which is we didn't have a studio over us. We had all these different territories that were interested in the film, but nobody was in charge of us. So it actually put us in charge of the production. But it also didn't create a situation where we had unlimited resources. It's an indie film, and so the budget was tight, and we were, you know, building the train tracks in front of the moving train, you know, and I think that was the most complicated thing, is like we were essentially setting up a studio for the production, and both on the CG side and the stop motion side. And in Montreal, we actually built a facility for the stop motion, a brand new facility, and you know, in a warehouse, and it was an incredible setup for us to do the stop motion. And then across town, we partnered with a company called Micros Image and basically brought in some technology, and used some of their technology, and created sort of our own system to do the CG. So it was fairly complicated, not only creatively to make sure these two entities were going to work together and help me tell the story I wanted to tell, but technically, and there were a lot of things that were not necessarily easy. And we were very international. We had people all over the world. Peter DeSev was in New York. I had Damon Bard doing sculpts in California. Lou Romano was in California. My writer was living in London. My other writer, Bob Perchetti, was, and head of story, was in Paris with me sometimes. And then we were in Montreal, and he was in Paris, and then he was in California. He was like all over. So it was difficult. It was difficult and challenging. And but everybody involved took on the challenge and went above and beyond the call of duty because of the book and because of the passion for the project and because of the passion for the tribute that we were all joined together to try to create, so that I think if it were anything but The Little Prince, we would have had people leaving left and right because it was so difficult. But because it was The Little Prince and because people were really joined in this mission, amazing things happened, and I got amazing artists like Hans Zimmer to come in and fall in love with the project and really want to help with this mission of protecting this amazing story. It's crazy because there's been so much stress and pressure and awareness of the weight of all of this on me, on all of us that have been making this film. We've felt that all along. So there's never been a moment where it's been like taken lightly. There's never been a moment throughout this. And I found that even with the finished film, there's still, when I get up in front of and I show it to people in every territory, I have this brand new fear that this will be the territory where people hate it. You know what I mean? And people really love the book here, and like, so Italy's another place where they love the book. And so it's sort of, okay, here we go again. And so I'm like, I can't believe that there's still this tension and this pressure. We just released in China, and it was like, wow, they love the book there, and they've embraced it. And everywhere we've released a film, it's been embraced, and the reactions have been incredible. But every new territory is a new opportunity for us to fall on our faces, So it's kind of this weird, like, I'm excited. I love the film. I love that it is what we set out to do. It is the tribute that I wanted to make. But I also knew that, there's no way you can make a movie out of this book and please everybody. There's just no way. The book is too wide-reaching, and so. And it's a very personal experience that people have with the book. So, and it's been my hope that people will understand and get that this is a work, it's an act of love. We're trying to protect the book. We've all tried to pay tribute to this amazing experience that we all share. That to me was the thing that connects us all, no matter what age or country you live in, like the love of the book and the way the book affects us. But the fact that the book affects us, like that's the link. That's how we're all connected. And and just to say, when I'm getting goosebumps thinking about the family, because at the Cannes premiere, a lot of the family members were there, some of the estate family members, and I had one of the family members came up with me and he said, I'm 50 years old. I said, I've lived with this book my entire life. And he said, I've lived and breathed this book every day of my 50 years. And he said, you've made the book new to me. And he said, I cannot believe it. I was crying, and he hugged me, and it was like, again, a relief came over me. And it was this amazing reaction, and I got it. We were invited the next day down to where the family gathers in Agay, and they have a beautiful place there, and then we were invited for a dinner on the beach, and I walked in and they all stood up and applauded, and like genuine love and smile, and like it was, I almost started bawling. It was such an incredible thing. And speeches were made, they were thanking me, And I tried to thank them for trusting me, and I almost started crying, and I had to make a really short speech and sit back down. But it was like, it was an amazing validation for the entire experience, for the entire crew, and that's the thing I always say, like, the success of the film is really about how the crew feels about it. Like, that, to me, however much money it makes, or, you know, I want audiences to accept it, I want people to love it, but it's wanting the crew to feel like their hard work was worth something, and all that energy and effort and heart that they put into it. And we're getting that all over the world in all these different territories. So that's what's kind of been incredible, to finally have this rewarded and appreciated. And yeah, I just hope it goes well in Japan, because Japan is a huge territory for the book. Like, I think it's actually the largest territory in the world. They believe the book is Japanese. It's such a part of the culture there. And Warner Brothers is releasing us in Japan, and they've been promoting. I've been to Japan 3 times already to promote, and they are so excited about the movie. And yeah, it's a really incredible opportunity, but I'm terrified, you know, so, but, you know, so far so good. I've had an incredible time here at the View Conference. This is my second time. I came here about 7 years ago, right after Kung Fu Panda. And I've always been wanting to come back because it's the perfect type of conference. I love any kind of opportunity to be able to connect with my fellow filmmakers and meet new people that work in the industry, and also to see gaming and other aspects of the industry that I'm not that connected to. And View is so intimate, and it is really a great opportunity to see all the panels and talk with people, and Maria Elena creates a great environment here that is really quite special. I mean, I've had such an incredible time these past few days, not only inspiring talks and friends, you know, Jorge is a friend, but I love seeing him talk, and he gave an incredible presentation. You know, it's like, it's really a perfect way to spend, for me, to be able to spend a few days, because I never get to spend time, you know, I'm always working, I'm always, you know, spending time with my family, and like, to get to detach and come and like just immerse myself in this world is really fantastic. And you know, it's getting together with other directors is something that happens rarely for me, and every time I do, it's just incredible. It's great to be able to share war stories and to connect, and to do a panel like we did, just a bunch of directors talking that you're moderating. It's like, it's so great to have that chance to share those stories. And I really believe it's important for young students and young filmmakers to hear those stories, and to understand that it's not, you know, it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of mistakes, and, you know, hearing all that stuff I think is really important. So, and I love hearing that too, like even hearing Shannon's talk and the way he talked about his process, it's such a validation for the turmoil that I'm in, to go, oh my God, he's experiencing the same thing. And so it's just great to be able to connect that way, and to not feel so alone, you know.